going to start this vlog off with an interesting situation. 8x10 Deardorff. No glass. Where could the glass be? Well, it's down here. That's because even though the Hasselblad back that dropped out of my hands hit a soft spot on the carpet and didn't break, it did bounce right into the back of my 8x10, which I had just this morning said to myself, I should put that up on the tripod today. And I didn't do it. So, 8x10, ground glass, eBay. Then there's that moment just before you hit the eBay buy it now button, when a little synapse fires in your brain and you go, hey, didn't I buy a extra 8x10 ground glass about 20 years ago? And then, in a stroke of genius that only happens once or twice in a lifetime, you remember where it is and save $180. Sweet. Just sweet. Now I got to remember not to kick this one, huh? Or drop a Hasselblad back on the back of it by putting it on a tripod where it belongs. Wow, can you believe 25 years? 25 years at least, and I managed not to break it. Wow. That's pretty amazing, I think. For me, anyway. It's a wooden camera. It's quite old. Sometime, well, how are we going to do this? Yeah, that's what we want to do. Lose that screw because that'll be really easy then. This thing was done in about the 50s, created about 1951, I think, by the Deardorff folks. I believe it was a small operation, too, if I remember. I was a son and a gentleman and his son and a handful of laborers that built these cameras. And built them by hand. I need to take mine all apart and sand it down and revarnish it, I think. Just absolutely lovely, lovely wood. But that being said, mine is kind of beat up because, you know, I use it. And I drop Hasselblads onto it. One last one. One last little holder here. And my Deardorff will be all back together. And this is Deardorff glass, by the way. This is not a cheap imitation glass. This is actually a Deardorff, or made for Deardorff. You can tell by the rounded edges. Hard to find rounded edges ground glass, because what current makers of ground glass do is they'll bevel these edges to fit in these corners. But just this, as you can see, has nice, perfectly round edges. And my Deardorff is no longer broken. What a nice day. One of the reasons I was kind of upset that the 8x10 was out of commission for all of about, I don't know, 40 minutes while I'm frantically over here on eBay, you know, looking for a new back for it, a new ground glass. And Deardorff ground glasses are very expensive, about $170 up all the way to $300 for the ground glass. So I'm really glad that I remembered that extra panel that I bought. Actually, I also have another one that's the original Deardorff with the the etches, the squares etched into it, and that one's out there as well. But it's so old at this point. I'm afraid it's going to be probably a little more fragile even than the one I have. But the little Synops Fire, I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but I remembered buying that ground glass I think about 27 years ago. So yeah, do anything except not push that button. It's at $179. So, but it had free shipping, so it was pretty nice. We learn to use our tools, and we become addicted to them. The first time I looked through that 8x10, the ground glass on the back, I was just astounded because it allowed me to escape the world, so to speak, and just live in the back of the camera. Let me give you an explanation. The ground glass that you're looking through is about this big, and you put you've got the dark cloth over your head, so you're isolated from the environment. With a regular camera, a DSLR, I can put it up to my eye, I can leave my other eye open, and I can frame within the picture. But when you're working with an 8x10 or a 4x5 and you've got that cloth over you, all you see is what's right in front of you on the camera lens, or in front of the lens on the ground glass. And so it makes that image almost more precious in a way, because that's your only window to the world. The longer you're under the ground, under the black cloth and on that ground glass, the more you start to understand the image that you're going to make. The image, by the way, is upside down and backwards, and takes a little while. And the first time you look at it, you go, "What?" Pick the camera up, move it here, but the picture goes that way. You go, "Oh no, wait a minute! I need to move it here," and the picture goes that way. You tilt it down, and the picture goes up. Tilt it up, and the picture goes down. It's because the picture's upside down. But it doesn't take very long to get used to that. And then you find that composing that image on an upside down, backwards frame actually benefits your compositional skills. There's a power, I think, so to speak, in understanding what happens with that visual that you see in front of you. And I've always loved that camera, and I still love that camera. I don't shoot a lot of film in it. I've been experimenting. Well, I did some experimenting last summer. I haven't really done much since then with the leg and the back injury and getting better and all those things. Carrying that big camera around wasn't the best idea, but now that I'm much better, I'm going to get out with it again. But the experimentation was shooting directly onto paper. So instead of loading up film in the back, I load up a sheet of paper. Go out, shoot it, bring the paper back and process it. That means there's no dodging and burning necessarily. And it also means that the paper is a negative. So when I make the paper, it's a negative. If I shot film, that would be a negative going to paper. That would reverse it again to positive. But the paper's a negative. And sometimes looking at a negative, for me, these days, it's a little bit more tricky than it was back in the day when I looked at negatives every day, and you could tell often on the negative what was working or what wasn't working, or if you blew the exposure or whatever, just by looking at the negative under a normal light. But with the paper, it's a little bit more difficult to see and to feel. So what I do then, I take the paper and then photograph the paper or scan the paper. Either way, I'm finding that matting the hot matting the paper down and then photographing it on my 6D is the best way, because I really get a better scan, so to speak, off the 6D than I do off my flatbed scanner. And really, plus I get a raw file, which is kind of cool because I can put it into Photoshop, reverse it, and get the positive of it. But that camera has been with me all over the United States, and I'm really glad that I was able to get it fixed. And it also reminded me to get out and shoot it more. So that's one of the things I'll be doing very soon, is getting out and shooting that camera more. By the way, if you're shooting paper on the back of your 8x10 or 4x5, the guide number, or the ISO number, not guide number, the ISO is about 6. So prepare for long exposures, and it doesn't work well in the wind. If it's a great big old 8x10 with bellows, wind will probably create havoc with it. But ISO 6, and as soon as I get some images, I'll share them with you. But that was today, you know. Hey, break the 8x10 day. Why not? Nothing else to do.